Oh, this little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. Oh, this little light of mine. Oh, I'm gonna let it shine. Let's all be quiet and say, this little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. Let it shine, let it shine, let it shine. Oh, this little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. Oh, this little light of mine, oh, this little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. Oh, because of who you are, give you glory. Because of who you are, I give you praise. Because of who you are, I will lift my voice and say, Lord, I worship you because of who you are. Lord, I worship you because of who you are.
It's my time? It's not my time, it's God's time. We just engaging in God's time, how we can to think about how we can live up to His expectation since we have received Him as our Lord. Amen? Amen. God is good. All the time. All the time? God is good. You have been already trained very well. Let us pray. Heavenly Father, we give thanks to you for this wonderful day, wonderful opportunity, and gathering together in your name. Lord, at this moment we bow down ourselves to you, giving ourselves as a living sacrifice to hear your word, the word of eternal life, just as Peter confessed to Jesus on behalf of his fellow disciples. Lord, fill our hearts with your Spirit, lead us. Fill this place with your glory, and we give you the glory we can bring to you, serving you, and hearing you, and making differences in our lives. Thank you so much for our time together. In the name of Jesus Christ, we pray. Amen. God is good again. Let me start with sharing a part of Psalm 37. It says, trust in the Lord and do good, so you will live in the land and enjoy security. Take delight in the Lord, and He will give you the desires of your heart. So what you can do, commit your way to the Lord, trust in Him, and He will act. The last sentence you heard is just something we need in our lives every day. Trust in Him, and He will act. You can find so many things like that. God acted for His people. And today you will also hear this, one of those things you can find from Mark. Let me start with a question. How many changes you have made in your life? Can you count? No. Why? You want too many, right? So let me ask you another question. What is the greatest change you ever made in your life or saw in someone's life? Can you guess? Can you imagine? What is the greatest change you ever made? in your life or saw in someone's life. Your neighbors, your friends, even one of your family members. Think about what happened before and after Jesus came to you and began to live in your life. Have you ever thought about that? Before and after. Does Jesus live in you? Is that the greatest change you ever made in your life? Since Jesus began to live in you, He expected to see your perspective changed, including how to see, how to think, how to talk, and how to act. Do you agree with that? Let me share something with you, something that my wife and I have experienced some time ago. How many of you like cherry tomato? Cherry tomato. 40 years ago, I didn't know that. Even 30 years ago, I didn't know that. Actually, 20 years ago, I didn't really know about that, except just watching at the grocery store or something like that. But sometime later, I began to like it, began to enjoy it. Just one mouth side. I don't have to hold the tomato, big tomato, but just one time. That's it. So it's easy. So I began to enjoy it. A couple of years ago, my wife bought a small plant of cherry tomato. Next day, she thought it might be good to put the plant outside to have sunlight. Later, she forgot to bring it back inside in the evening. The weather changed. It rained overnight. She bought small plant. It rained overnight. You can imagine what happened to that little plant, right? Next morning, we brought the little plant inside. All the leaves were dead. You don't have to imagine, you know that. Only the slender stem seemed okay, just a little tiny thing. It was hopeless. It was unthinkable for us to see the plant survive. Nonetheless, we did not give up. We kept the plant inside next to the kitchen windows. A few days later, we saw things changed. Just a few days later, we saw things changed. A few tiny leaves came out. A little plant began to revive. According to John, that kind of situation, he said this way: it passed from death to life. It passed from death to life. I'm sure you have had such experience at some moment. Everybody has some issues. Everybody has ups and downs. Sometimes they enjoy their life for the moment, but next moment they find something terrible. So we know that feeling. It passed from death to life. Then my wife took the plant outside and put it in dirt. Now on the screen you can see, next slide, next. What was the last Sunday? Yeah, we believe that Jesus is risen. And he said to Martha, I'm the resurrection and the life. Those who choose to hear Jesus, learn from his words, and believe in him, will pass from death to life. We heard the scripture from Mark chapter 6. This is the setting of that account of feeding 5,000 people. Jesus' disciples returned from their mission to cure the sick and preach the kingdom of God. They went to a deserted place, basically in the wilderness. Many people hurried there on foot and arrived there ahead of Jesus. He saw the great crowd. He had compassion for them because they looked like sheep without a shepherd. Can you draw the picture? The many sheep without a shepherd. Not knowing where to go, no protection, dragged from everywhere, wolves. Jesus began to teach them many things. This account of feeding $5,000 people, you can find the account in all four Gospels: Matthew, Mark, Luke, John. Why? They thought it was important. So today we are going to hear what Mark wants to tell us about what he experienced with Jesus and with what Jesus did. When it became the evening, the disciples came to Jesus and asked him to send the people away. Mark 6, verse 35, it says, "This is a deserted place, and the hour is now very late. Send them away, so that they may go into the surrounding country and villages, and buy something for themselves to eat." Probably they were afraid that the crowd might be hungry and troubled in the deserted place. Perhaps they thought to themselves that there was nothing they could do for them in the wilderness. Nonetheless, Jesus said to his disciples this: "You give them something to eat." Imagine that you are one of those 12 disciples who are standing in the wilderness looking at huge crowd, and you're hearing some few words that sound crazy. You give them something to eat. Matthew includes extra information. He said they need not go away. They need not go away. The crowd did not have to go away to get some food. This was not something outrageous that Jesus dumped on the shoulders of his disciples. It was an opportunity. It was an opportunity they could see beyond their limits, their thoughts, their horizon of imagination. What the crowd needed was available right there where they were. Sometimes we cannot see, we don't see something is available even though there is there, it is there. What the crowd needed at the moment in the place in the wilderness was available where they were. Jesus is trying to let them see that. We are not here to confirm and reconfirm that, okay, Jesus fed 5,000 people. We are not here to hear that, right? Why? Do you know that? You know that. We are not here whether asking whether God exists or not. We already believe that, right? So we are here to find out what Jesus is telling us, what Mark wanted to tell us through this account. It was an opportunity they could see beyond their limits, their thoughts, their imagination. Mark recorded the 5,000 people. Matthew had something more. Matthew said about 5,000 men, besides women and children. What does that mean? A lot of people, more than 5,000 people, right? It's a huge crowd. In the crowd, Jesus said to his disciples, "You give them something to eat." Probably momentarily, it sounded crazy to them. So the disciples asked Jesus, "Are we to go and buy 200 denarii worth of bread and give it to them to eat? One denarius was about 1 day's wage. You work 1 day and then you will get your wage. That amount. So 200 denarii worth of bread is a lot of food. So disciples figured out how much food was needed for so many people. How much money they needed to buy that much food. This was a lot of food. And this was a lot of money they couldn't afford. Matthew recorded their reaction to Jesus this way. Lord, I understand what you said, but we have nothing. We have nothing here. Sometimes you felt in a way when you found your lives in trouble or some challenge or something. I know every day something happens to people everywhere. We are not exceptions. Things happen. We have nothing here but 5 loaves and 2 fish. Luke recorded it this way. We have no more than 5 loaves and 2 fish. Matthew knew that, how little he had. John recorded it this way. 6 months' wages would not buy enough bread for each of them to get little. So John knew how little they had compared to the huge crowd. He couldn't even count. In their mentality, it was impossible. Do you agree with that? In their mentality, I'm sure they were thinking people, even though they were expert in fishing business, they were thinking people, so they knew they were able to figure out how much food they needed. The demand was too great, but the supply seemed almost nothing. Isn't that our life? Isn't that something we feel every now and then?
Yes.
They thought it was impossible for them to do as Jesus told them. You give them something to eat. You give them something to eat. But Jesus knew that they were not able to do that. But he wanted to challenge them to think through, to see beyond their horizon. He wanted them to grow a little taller than yes. When you stay below this pulpit, can you see me? I cannot see you. But only when I stand up, I can see you and you can see me. And we can see how much more God has in store for us. Jesus asked them, how many loaves have you? He asked this one not because he didn't know that. According to John, Jesus already knew what was in their minds. He knew everyone. How many loaves do you have? Go and see. They said 5 and 2 fish. How many fingers do I have? 7, right? How many people are here now? About 40 people. Even though I give 1 finger to each of them, each of you, it's too little, right? Over 5,000 people for 5 loaves and 2 fish. Yeah, 5 loaves and 2 fish may be good enough for my son. Or for myself. Or for each of you. But not for more than 5,000 people. And you ask, what are they among so many people? Andrew also know, Andrew is one of the 12 disciples. He knew That was nothing. So he said, what are they among so many people? He meant it was nothing. It was useless for so many people. These impossibility thinkers were helpless. But Jesus told them to get all the people to sit down in groups of hundreds and fifties on the green grass. It was the spring. Then he took 5 loaves and the 2 fish, gave thanks to God, and gave them to his disciples. Then the disciples gave the crowd. The loaves. Have you ever thought about why Jesus gave the loaves to his disciples rather than giving the food to the crowd directly? Have you ever thought about that? Matthew, Mark, or John, or Luke does not say anything about that, but think about it. It's not hard to think about. Jesus is standing in front of the big crowd. Beside him, 12 disciples were standing by. So each time Jesus took a part of the loaf and gave it to each of the disciples to pass it to the crowd. So now Jesus begins to tear a little bit from the loaf, and each disciple comes to Jesus and receives to pass it to other people. He began, he continued. Do you want me to stop? Do you want me to stop? Can you imagine how long Jesus had to do this one for more than 5,000 people? Now, can you answer the question why Jesus gave it to the disciples rather than to the crowd? Jesus wanted his disciples to understand what is available in Jesus, who Jesus is. He is a provider, no matter what happens to their lives. He kept giving it to the disciples. So they experienced something unexpected, unprecedented. They experienced something they never imagined. They kept seeing something came out of Jesus, something they need every day to eat, to nurture their bodies, and to nurture their souls. There is a reason why Mark included this account in his Gospels, just like out of the other 3 Gospel writers. This feeding event is not to show whether Jesus could feed the large crowd or not. Jesus did not have to show, he did not have to prove that he was supernatural, he was powerful. Did he need to show that? He did not have to show or prove that he was powerful. It was to reveal who Jesus was. It was to show that we take the opportunity to see possibility among impossibilities and to make the best out of that. Amen. It is to let us see and accept Jesus as the bread of life. Amen. You know that there are 7 I am statements in the Gospel of John. This is the first one. Jesus wanted to let them see, let his disciples see himself as the bread of life that came from God, came from heaven. The disciples saw the possibility out of the impossibility through Jesus. So we are to break out from the mental limitation. So Jesus asked the impossibility thinkers, "How many loaves have you?" How many loaves do you have in your hands right now? Over 5,000 people ate out of only 5 loaves and the 2 fish. It is not just the 5 loaves. It is Jesus Himself. It is Jesus who made it possible. Jesus may ask you, "How many loaves have you?" Other times, Jesus may ask you, "How much faith do you have?" Since I came to you and began to live in you, in your life. This great thing starts from what? Small, tiny thing. Isn't that the best difference from other people who don't know Jesus? We know the great thing came from small, tiny thing. Jesus did not come to the world as a great person. He came. Do you remember what Matthew described his coming? He came as a little baby. Think about Jesus' commanded to the disciples, "You give the crowd something to eat." They were like sheep without a shepherd. So you give them something to eat. Jesus had just demonstrated that what they were to do after He had departed from the world. Without His presence, they were to continue what Jesus began. So they saw that. So they knew. They loved. They knew what they were to do. It was a spiritual matter to be done based on our faith. So when impossible thinkers are trapped in impossibilities, Jesus speaks to you. It is possible. It is possible with me. I want you to see possibility among impossibilities through your faith in me. Do you remember the story about the coming of Jesus in Luke? An angel of God came to Mary. And Mary heard something unexpected, some news she could never imagine. She would conceive a baby. And Mary was wondering how that can happen. How could that happen to her? Do you remember what the angel said to her? Nothing will be impossible with God. Nothing will be impossible with God as you hear His word and believe in Him. The Apostle Paul said, "I can do all things through Jesus. My God will fully satisfy every need of yours according to His riches in glory in Jesus." Paul was not a great person before he was chosen to serve. Just like us. But he experienced something great, something greater than he had ever experienced before he was called. So he said, "My God will fully satisfy every need of yours according to His riches in glory in Jesus Christ."
All right, say that.
So Mark 6 verse 43, it says, "The disciples took up 12 baskets full of broken pieces and of the fish. Sometimes people say, it is good enough. Did you ever say that to someone else? Well, especially when something was done well, that you feel good and it was good enough, even though it was not the best. But you feel that it is good enough. In the good enough mentality, you expect a little from God. It's a loss if you believe that. You have a lesser and even lesser than more possibilities with your faith shrinking in its capacity to act when we are trapped in the good enough mentality.
Yes.
Oftentimes we forget that God has much more in store for us than the routine of good enough mentality. All these persons you have received as your sons, as your children, as your disciples, Lord, make them your friends. Two friends, Jesus made everything known. Let them understand what you had in store for their lives. Make them your faithful disciples, servants, caregivers for other people who look like sheep without a shepherd. Fill their hearts with your spirit. Lead them into the place where they ought to be with Jesus Christ, where they may see your glory, they may experience your living presence. Bless their lives, bless those people whom they care about. Now, I pray for every single person who is